Hello, hello, my girlie. Welcome to Talks with Say, the only late night, thought provoking, giggle inducing lifestyle and girl talk podcast for my ladies whose days melt into their nights. I'm Zahra, your tulip loving, heels obsessed host who, just like you, is trying to figure it all out while finding moments of balance, discipline, and self above else. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to Talks with Say and turn on your notifications so you don't miss an episode. Tonight is going to be a little different from what we usually do from our usual time together. We are outside. We're in a cafe. If you're like me, you've always been told prepare, prepare, prepare. Whether it's preparing for work, preparing for school, preparing for life, whatever it is, you have to be prepared. And as such, I'd like to think that I'm prepared for our time together tonight. But you know what? Rather than looking at my typical notes, rather than going off of my research, I'm going to put the notes aside right now, and I just want to have a conversation. So, as you know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. It's a month that highlights and brings awareness to the realities of life for so many of us in today's world. And those realities are, so many of us are suffering from mental health issues. Every day, every year, mental health issues for us are rising, not just here in the US, but globally. More and more women are suffering from mental health issues. We never know the battles others are facing, and often we don't share the battles we're fighting ourselves. There's so many reasons for why we don't share that. Because we feel ashamed. We don't share it because we feel like it might make us seem ungrateful. We don't share because we come from cultures and environments and homes where those things aren't normalized. And something that I've come to notice, not just through my research, but just through observing other people, and that is there's still such a stigma about mental health. And you would think, okay, it's 2024. There can't be a stigma. There shouldn't be a stigma. But unfortunately, there still is. There's just a general negative connotation that is still around mental health. If somebody was to say, hey, you know what? I'm not doing good mentally, there's still this stigma of, oh, you're not doing good mentally? You must be a terrible person. There's such a negative, I'm being so dramatic right now, but there's such a negative connotation around mental health still. And it's something that there shouldn't be a stigma around it, And one of the ways I've learned that we can end the stigma is by actually talking about mental health. Literally just saying, hey, I think mental health is this. What do you think? Sometimes that's all it takes. It's just starting that conversation with one of your girls, starting that conversation with your husband, starting that conversation with your mom, with your uncle, with your little brother, whatever, whoever, starting that conversation with yourself. Listen, girlie, I know you talk to yourself. It'd be like that sometimes, okay? It'd be like that. Sometimes, ask yourself, hey, how am I doing mentally? Am I good? Am I actually good? Regardless of what people in your life, regardless of what your community, regardless of what your culture says about mental health or what they tell you to do about mental health, if you in your gut, if you in your heart know that it's not okay, then that's okay. It's okay to actually say something about mental health. It's okay to stand up for mental health awareness. It's okay to stand up for your mental health. It's okay to stand up for somebody else's mental health. That could be your spouse's mental health. It could be your parents' mental health. It could be your sister's mental health, your brother's, your best friend. And something I've seen in my life so frequently is often when we come from ethnic backgrounds, mental health is like she doesn't have mental issues, or it's like, oh, she has mental issues, that means she's crazy. There's a stereotype in a lot of ethnic cultures that when somebody says you know what, I'm not okay mentally. You know what, I don't feel good mentally. Um, I think I'm suffering from depression, or I know I'm suffering from depression. So many ethnic cultures, so many elders in those cultures tend to say, you're crazy. You're actually crazy. And when they say you're actually crazy, they make it come off as something so terrible, and you're like this evil person. But the thing is, times change, and with times changing, there are going to be people who don't want to change, and there are going to be people who will stick to their mindset. And no matter how harmful that mindset may be, you have to trust your own gut. If you have taken the initiative to learn about mental health, if you have taken the initiative to be like, you know what, something is actually wrong with me. I'm not sure what it is, but something is wrong. I'm not okay. My head is being very cruel to me. Whether that cruelty has to do with a disorder or stress levels or depression, whatever it is, if you are able to take the initiative to actually acknowledge that, you already have made a difference. You already have saved so many generations in the future, and you don't even realize it. And so that's one of the reasons why this topic is so incredibly important to me, because all it takes is one person. All it takes is one person saying something and one person standing up for it. If my voice is getting a bit louder, it's because I'm genuinely so passionate about this topic and this cause. And it is something that I think more and more of us need to express and need to learn about. Another thing is this battle of your head versus your heart. And normally when it's your head versus your heart, it's kind of like a, should I stay with him? Should I leave him? Type of thing. It's the same. I feel like it's the same way with mental health. Naturally, I think a lot of us view mental health as like that toxic ex-boyfriend or that toxic boyfriend or whatever. When it's nothing like that, there's not a your head versus your heart when it comes to mental health. It's, this is what your head is doing. This is how you are feeling mentally and emotionally. And you are acknowledging that, and you are aware of that. If you are aware of the fact that you're not okay mentally, if you're aware of the fact that you're just so exhausted on a mental level, you're just consistently low, like extremely low, and you're having very terrible thoughts and you want to act on those thoughts, that's not a toxic boyfriend type situation. That is a, you know what, the fact that you actually are aware of how bad it is for you is the first step. After that, acknowledge it. And even if you're not ready to acknowledge it, still acknowledge it, and then ask for help. Ask for help. Listen, our head can sometimes be such a cruel place. And the thing is, you are with you for the rest of your life. You are with you physically, mentally, emotionally for the rest of your life. Make those places a very, very wonderful place to be. Now, let's talk about our head. Let's talk about our actual mental health. So sometimes like in a perfect world, all of us would be okay all the time. We'd be like top tier all the time. Mentally, we'd be mentally strong, we'd be mentally healthy, emotionally strong, emotionally healthy, physically strong, physically healthy, etc. But that's not the reality for a lot of us. And the truth of the matter is, sometimes our head can be such a cruel place, and it gets the best of us. And there's so many reasons why that happens, but I'm going to mention one that I personally have faced, and that's just the pressures of the world and life in general just makes it so much worse. It's like
working, we're going to school, we're paying bills, we're doing this, we're doing that. And it's like, it seems like for every generation of women that come, there's more on our plate. And it's a lot. It's a lot. There's so much pressure on us today as girls, as women. You know, the pressure of having a career, whatever that career looks like, the pressure of, you know, our education, the pressure of trying to build a life for ourselves and our families, whether that is, you know, you and your 2 cats, or you and your husband and your kids, or you and your roommate. And to build a life for ourselves today is just, there's so much pressure around it because of so many things. And that pressure adds to our mental health issues. And if we are silent about it, it's just not gonna work. It's not gonna work. I don't know how, like, our mothers and their mothers did it, but they did all of that, and they did so much, and they absolutely most likely did have bad mental health days, you know, and I'm not sure how they got through it. I don't know how your moms got through it, but we live in a society where it's go, go, go. And you don't have time to actually stop and pause and breathe and take a moment to actually check and see, like, hey, how am I doing? Or if you know you're not doing well, you're kind of just like, okay, you know what, another day. And then that other day becomes another day. And then that other day becomes another day. And it gets repetitive, and you keep doing the same thing, and you just push it back. And eventually you break. So, like, we're told, okay, go to therapy. Therapy is the end-all be-all answer. That's usually what we're told. That's usually what I see when it comes to mental health, is go to therapy. But the thing about it is, not all of us are comfortable going to therapy. Like, if you're not comfortable going to therapy, that's okay. If you're not comfortable talking to somebody else about it, that's okay. And beyond not being comfortable, if you're not ready, that's okay as well. There are so many other ways to actually cope, at the very least, with your mental health battles. There's so many ways to cope with your mental health battles beyond just therapy. And I just want to talk about that because therapy, number one, is still expensive. Let's be real here, because healthcare in the United States is extremely expensive. And so some ways that I've seen and that I've learned to actually take care of myself mentally is, number one, knowing who I am. Being able to know who I am. I to my core, I know who I am. I know who Zahra is. I know what my strengths are. I know what my weaknesses are. And I know when things are starting to go downhill when it comes to my mental health, when it comes to my emotional well-being as well. And so the way that I've learned to know that is through journaling. My girlie, when I tell you, journaling is one of the best things you could ever do for yourself beyond just your mental health. Like, journaling, I can't. It's just, maybe someday I'll like create a journal. I don't know. I did in the past, but journaling has helped so much. And let me tell you why it helps. If you're not a girlie that journals, I'm gonna try to put you on. I'm gonna try to get you onto the winning team. So the thing about journaling is you can journal however you want, whenever you want, for how long you want. And journaling doesn't mean you have to write things down. Journaling doesn't mean any of that. You can literally just draw something if you want to. You can just put anything, doodle. The point about journaling is having it all in an actual notebook or in an actual journal is so incredibly useful, because sometimes you grab your journal, you flip through it, and you see the progress that you've made, whether that progress is uphill or downhill, or it comes in waves. Like a lot of our mental well-being happens, our mental well-being isn't like a end-all be-all. You're not good for the rest of your life. You're not bad for the rest of your life. It happens in waves. It happens in circles. It happens in moments, because that's just how it is for a lot of us right now, and when you journal, it's I love journaling, girly. I love journaling. And something when it comes to journaling, a few things I tend to ask myself, especially when it comes to mental health and journaling, is what type of ancestor do I want to be? I ask myself that all the time. And asking myself that, somehow, I'm not sure how, but somehow it has helped tremendously with my mental health. Naturally, I have really bad mental health days. There are some days where it's just like, you know what, I can't even deal with this. Like, I can't, and I am 100% for therapy. But again, like I mentioned earlier, not all of us wants therapy. Not all of us can afford therapy. And not all of us feel safe or comfortable or ready enough to actually talk to a therapist. And journaling is, it's you being your own therapist without you realizing it. It's current you helping future you, so that future you can look at past you and be like, hey, you know what? We took care of ourselves. We took care of ourselves, girlie. We took initiative and we took care of ourselves. And journaling is actually part of a topic I want to dive into right now, which is checking in on ourselves, checking in on our loved ones. And like I said, a lot of us are trying to build a life for ourselves. And in trying to build a life for ourselves, we're outside. And when we're outside, girlie, what do? We go to our favorite coffee shop. We grab our favorite, we order go-to morning beverage is, you grab that, right? You're always there. And I'm sure the barista knows you by first name, right? And barista knows you by first name. She's going through something too. He's going through something too. Sometimes when your barista is like, hey, good morning, your usual order, and they ask you how you are, and you say you're good, whatever. And then you ask them how they are, and they say they're good, and then the conversation ends there. No. Don't end the conversation there. Sometimes extend it. Besides just asking, how are you? Ask them, what are you looking forward to today? That is such a great way to check in on someone, because normally, by default, when somebody asks us how we're doing, we know they don't want to know how we're doing. They're just saying it, and they're just asking it to ask it. But when you ask somebody, what are you looking forward to today? For the most part, they're going to think about something really nice. They're going to think about something that they view as the highlight of their day. And automatically, it's like you just helped somebody without you realizing it, And I don't know about you, but for me personally, I love hearing and seeing somebody talk about something that they're looking forward to, because their face absolutely lights up. And who doesn't want to see more people in this world happy, So that's a way to check in on someone. Of course, checking in on your girls, checking in on your spouse, checking in on your parents, checking in on the people you care about, whether it's once a month, once a quarter, once a year. Just check in. And don't check in expecting something in return. Just do it because you genuinely care about those people. So asking for help is something as simple as calling one of your best friends, or calling your best friend and saying, hey, I'm not doing good mentally. Can we talk? Also remembering that the people closest to us are not our therapists, right? So do not dump all of your issues and all of your hardships in terms of mental health, in terms of emotional health, onto the people that you love the most, because that's not fair on them and that's not fair on you. So finding a sweet spot is probably really necessary. And I'm not going to tell you what that sweet spot is. It's all based on your relationship with the people closest to you. And it's all based on your boundaries and their boundaries as well. But again, don't ever be afraid to ask for help. All right, so I'm starting to think that maybe I should have looked at my notes because, again, I really wanted this episode and I really wanted our time together tonight to be very real, very raw, very authentic, and it is. I have not looked at my notes. Let's continue. So some signs that I think we should all be looking out for when it comes to ourselves, when it comes to our mental well-being. There's honestly two. And for me, if you no longer are enjoying the things you normally enjoy, something is wrong. That is one of the biggest signs that you're deteriorating mentally and emotionally, is when the things that used to bring you joy don't bring you joy anymore. I'll give you an example. As you know, I am a tulip-loving, heels-obsessed girly. There was a point, actually last year, where I got tulips and I was like, whatever. And then shortly after that, when I tell you, I stopped wearing heels. I stopped wearing heels. It got to a point where somebody very close to me was like, why aren't you wearing heels today? We were having lunch together and they're like, you're not wearing heels. Are you okay? And after our lunch together, I sat and I really thought about like everything, right? And I realized I have not been wearing heels, number one. Number two, I got flowers and I was like, whatever. And then I didn't take care of those flowers. Girly, that was like light bulb moment. And I'm like, and I remember, I don't remember the day, but I just remember that moment when I realized something is actually wrong with me. And then I sat and I flipped through my journal. And when I flipped through my journal, my entries for the last 6 months were so heartbreaking. And I was crying out for help to my journal, but suffering silently. And then on top of that, I wasn't journaling frequently anymore. And so my sign was I no longer enjoyed the things that I normally enjoy. And that is tulips and heels. On top of that, I was crying out for help in my journal without even realizing it. Hence, one of the reasons why journaling is so important. Looking for signs that your mental well-being is not great or is deteriorating, there's different signs to look out for. But I would say the most important thing when it comes to looking out for those signs is trust your gut. Trust your gut. My girlie, always, always, always trust your gut. And I wasn't listening to my gut. I wasn't listening to my gut. And remember in the beginning when I told you sometimes all it takes is a conversation? For me, all it took was a conversation. And it was a conversation from somebody that loves me so dearly. And sometimes it's also something that like the stranger might tell us that we don't even notice about ourselves. And you yourself will know, because you have to trust your gut. Your gut is there for a reason. Sometimes you know and you just deny it. Sometimes you know and you just want to ignore it. Regardless, I just want to let you know, and I hope that you know that having mental health battles doesn't make you any less of a person, any less of a woman. It doesn't mean that you are a weak person. It does not mean that you are a weak woman, and it absolutely does not mean you are not worth it. It does not mean that your life is not worth it, that your presence is not worth it, that you yourself are not worth it. It is something that, again, we all face, and way too many of us are silent about it. And I hope that this episode ignites something in you to share your mental health struggles with somebody that you trust, somebody that you feel safe and secure with. And that could be yourself, that could be God, that could be a licensed professional, whatever it is, whoever it is. I hope that you're not holding it in. That is the entire purpose of this episode, is I just hope that you're not holding it in. I hope that it pushes you to no longer hold it in, I hope that at the very least, you take away one thing from tonight, and that is prioritize your mental well-being, regardless of what society says, regardless of what your community, your upbringing, your family, regardless of what they are saying, regardless of what they are doing, you yourself, always prioritize your mental well-being. Whatever that looks like to you, do that. So something else that actually just popped into my head is usually a lot of us want to help. A lot of us want to bring awareness to mental health, but we don't know how to do so. And oftentimes we feel like our voice doesn't matter, or it's like I'm only one person, what can I do? I mentioned in the beginning of the episode, sometimes all it takes is a conversation. Have more conversations, and have more conversations with the people you love. Have more conversations with kids. So many children, so many young girls, young boys, just so many young children are suffering from mental health issues, and oftentimes they don't even know they're suffering from them unless it's extreme, because it seems like children just know extremes and that's it. But talk to your little brother, talk to your little sister, talk to your baby cousin, be more present. Be more present when you are with other people. Be more present when you are with your loved ones. Put your phone away. Call somebody that you haven't seen for a while. Not the toxic person, but somebody that you genuinely enjoy being around, and be like, hey, how are you doing? Do you have time for a chat? And I mentioned earlier, like the checking in, no matter how frequently, is part of actually helping. And also just acknowledging that mental health is actually crucial to our well-being, and it's actually crucial to us in today's society and in societies to come, is one of the ways that you actually can make a difference. All right, girly, as you can see, or actually hear, this is a topic that really hits home, and one that means so much to me, and I hope it means so much to you as well. To wrap up our time tonight, I just have to say a few things to you. And first, happy Mental Health Awareness Month. Second, may you always remember and truly know how valued and necessary your life is. And most importantly, may you always prioritize your mental well-being, regardless of what society, your culture, our cultures, people, parents, spouses, whatever, regardless of what they say and what they do, may you always prioritize your well-being.
And that's it for tonight's episode. If you've enjoyed this episode or you're enjoying the podcast, go ahead and tap on the subscribe button and leave me a review. You can also find me and Talks with Say on Instagram at Talks with Say. Thank you, my girly, for joining me, and more importantly, thank you for existing. Until next time, self above else.